Hi Learnifixers, what strategy do you use to study for tests, examinations or an interviews? Have you developed a way to make information easily learnable, to make reading more fun and make information easily recallable? As for me, I'm a clinical neurophysiologist. I study the brain, so I have a lot of certification examination to write. For this reason, I've developed a strategy that I call Learnifix. So whenever I have an examination or a test or an interview to prepare for, I use this learning strategy to help myself in studying the material for the test or the examination or the interview. And over the years, this has given me leverage, and I've scored great grades, close to 90-100%. By the way, my name is Fatai and I'm a clinical neurophysiologist. I study the brain, so if there is anyone that knows how to trick the brain to forget lots of information, sorry for that. If there's anyone that knows how to trick the brain to remember lots of information, that is me. So if you stick around, I'll be showing you how to trick your brain to remember lots of information. Stick around. You see, as for me, if I have an examination or a test or an interview, I first try as much as possible to review past questions, dummy questions, prep questions, whatever sort of questions that I can find that are related to the knowledge I'll be tested on. If you are a student, your school library or a certain designated database might be the best source for you to have access to previous questions or prep questions, just access to a standardized questions. But if you are a professional and you are not in the academic environment anymore, you may need to ask a colleague that have already done the same examination or the interview, or it is also possible that the board responsible for setting the examination have a comprehensive database of prep questions that are related to the field of knowledge that you'll be tested on. You may need to pay to have access to the material, or if it is an internet database of questions and answers. Reviewing standardized past questions and answers is one of the most important steps in this strategy. In fact, it is the first steps in this strategy, and I can never overemphasize the need for you to lay your hand on past questions. It is the reviewing of previous questions and answers that gives your brains an hint, a clue on what to look for whenever you actually engage in the reading of the material for the preparation of the examination or a test. In one of my certification examination that I prepared for, I reviewed over 10,000 questions and answers, and these gave me a greater advantage when I got into the examination. In your own case, you may not need to review 10,000 questions and answers, but as for me, it's a medical certification examination. You can never go underprepared, and you can never be over-prepared for a medical certification examination, because your level of tolerance is expected to be low. You are expected to get most of the answers to the questions, about 85 to 80% right, because this is regarded as if you are treating a patient. So the lesser error, the lesser mistakes you make in your examination, it's considered as a positive outcome for the patient treatment, or as a positive outcome for the patient diagnostics results. Now that you have those questions in your hands, you should start reviewing them. Or maybe you just discovered that you don't know answers to those questions. Let me tell you one thing, you don't need to panic, as it doesn't actually matter if you don't know those answers for now, if you are failing those questions for now. What actually matters most is that at this moment you have contact with those questions, as this is your first time of coming across those information. So what your brain does is that it keeps a record, and whenever you get into reading the material for the examination, your brain will be looking for answers to those questions that you didn't know in the first place. The reviewing of question and answers makes study more fun and makes study less cumbersome for the brain, as it already gives the brain a clue and hint of what to look for in the body of the textbooks, in the body of the material that you will be using to prepare for the examination, or if it is a test or an interview. Because when you start reading the textbooks, your brain already knows what to look for. It will be looking for the answers to those questions that you didn't know in the first place. It is just like you are being told to look for a needle in an haystack, or you are being told to look into an haystack without being told to look for a needle. In these two instructions, which of it has a specific purpose, a certain goal? I believe the one that you are being told to look for the needle in an haystack. So similarly, your brain knows that it needs to look for answers in the textbooks, in the material you are reading for the examination or for the test. Reviewing those past question and answers, it's a form of preview into what you might come across in the course of reading the textbook, the material, but mainly it's what you might come across in the course of the actual examination. So you are more or less like a traveler embarking on a journey. So with your telescope and a map, you need to preview the terrain that you might be navigating in the course of your journey. Also, there is a need for you to preview the body of knowledge, the textbooks you will be studying for the examination. So this involves you looking into the topics, into the chapters heading, into the chapters overview, into the chapter summary, into the footnotes, into the side notes, into the aims and objectives of the chapter. It is in these important key points, some keywords that are the main concepts of the chapter. That's where the questions and answers are being extracted from. In the course of the preview, you also need to study the table of contents, the prospectus, the syllabus of the examination. This table of content will serve as a guide, as a form of mental map. It represents a structural arrangement of the body of knowledge you need to know before you go for the examination. It allows you to keep a tab on what you've known and also what you are lacking. For example, in the course of preparation for one of the certification examination that I wrote recently, I've used the table of contents, the syllabus for the examination, as a screensaver on my phone. So whenever I'm using my phone, it's always there. I always see it as it forms a mental map of what I need to know. Reviewing past question and answers and previewing the textbooks, the chapters, the topic, the table of contents, the syllabus, the prospectus, the overviews of the chapters, all forms the background, the foundation to this strategy before you now go into reading the textbook proper. Hi Learnifixers, did you stick around up to this moment? If you do, that's great. Kudos to you. Thanks for watching. In this video, we've talked about a strategy that I developed that I call Learnifix, that I use whenever I have an examination, a test, or an interview. We've talked about the need for you to lay your hands on previous questions, on past questions, prep questions for review before the examination, before you start reading. And we talked about how the review of past question and answer, it's also a form of preview of what to come by in the examination. Preview also involve the previewing of the material, the textbooks that you will be using to prepare for the examination or the test, or if it is an interview. So in the subsequent video, I'll be discussing the remaining parts of the Learnifix strategy. I hope you find the video helpful. Kindly subscribe, likes, share. I will send you more past questions. See you again. Stick around, Learnifixers.